First off, my Bachelor of Science is in Physics, and for a month, I've been racking my head on how to write the speech. I wrote it about 10 times, threw it away 10 times. And it's because I wrote it as a physicist. You had to be very precise, succinct, and written in real good English. And I think that's why it never really hit me as to being what I wanted to say. Because one of the most difficult things is as somebody read one of my quotes, that as Native Americans, or any indigenous group, we see things as everything combined together as a whole. And it's very difficult to see things as individual parts. So I could never really write that speech in that manner. So it dawned on me just this morning that my speech should actually come from my heart and should be, as a Native American, as a story, something to hopefully educate. And so that's what I'm going to basically do, tell you a story. As, I forget who said that also this morning. And first off, I'm the youngest child of 8 children, from Paul Van Thomas and Bessie Elizabeth Biederman. My dad was the only boy out of 6 girls, and he was the youngest as well. But now, today, just I and my brother are the only ones alive. Everybody else has left. And the one person that should have been here is my mom. And so, out of my 100 invitation cards, I took one and wrote Mom on it. And being a physicist, I studied at university, everything, how it works. Being a Native American, I see it all connected. And so I took that card and then burnt it with a match to it and told the universe to give it to her. Because out of everybody, she's the one that deserves it the most. And I'm also the one that told them to turn off the machines. And there was no argument on that. I'm much older than most, as you can see. I'm currently September, will be 54, my first graduate courses. And it took me 30-some years to get here. It was my bachelor's. It's not my only degree. I have a couple other degrees, associated with science and associated with applied science. But this is the one I started with when I went from 8th grade to college, a long time ago. However, back in the 79, 80, it was very difficult for Native Americans to survive in college, especially when you're big dark glasses, thick nipples, and all the jocks picking on you. So I joined the military. And then always tried to come back to finish this degree, but could never do it. Life always has a way of throwing obstacles at you, changing your path. So after the military, through the drugs and alcohol, firefighting, prison, everything that everybody basically experienced as Americans, as people. I came back in 2009 after getting my 2 associate's degrees. And this time, since midnight is approaching, put my head down and charged into getting my degree. And of course, I started out as a mathematician. But then along the way, almost a year and a half ago, we changed it. And everybody always asked, why math, why physics? I mean, that's very difficult. Even mathematicians said that's a difficult course. I told them I want to do something easier. But anyway, point I want to make with my speech or presentation is that no matter what your dream is when you were little, as you get older, you don't really discard it. It changes. Sometimes life has a way of diverting your path to a different direction, but you eventually, if you have a chance to come back to it, grab it and try to get it, pursue it. And I've always wanted to study physics, ever since I was a little boy standing on the banks, holding my dad's hand, asking him why things worked, why the moon come up, why the sun moves, why ducks and geese come in different directions, and all those things. And a lot of stuff you couldn't answer. And since that day, I've always wanted to be a physicist. Now, I am. But there are a few things I've learned along the way. And one is you can't really go through college alone. One thing you got to recognize is that you have faults. There are things you don't know. Especially as a Native American in Western culture, there are a lot of things you don't know. And so the one thing you need to realize as a student is that you have to go out and find people who can help. Those that push you along the way, like that guy back there, who can't drive straight during the winter. Dr. Dan Soley. And so that's one of the main parts I'd like to point out. As to how I got into Galee'ya, there was twofold. One was coming back to college. And once I got here, the other one was this beautiful lady here. She seen me down in Galee'ya, where I took my associates in construction, electrical, plumbing, all that good stuff, as well as my Associate of Science. And I was sitting there watching the news when the stock market was going down in my very comfortable tennis shoes. The reason why I was comfortable because I'd been sweating it. Had all kinds of holes in it. Toes sticking out, heels sticking out, side was torn, but very comfortable. And she got the impression that I was really out and out. I had a grand in my back pocket. I could have bought a brand new tennis shoe anytime. But anyway, that's how I basically fundamentally got into the Galee'ya program. Is the minute they mentioned that they'll help with tuition and books, and they pay for STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And so, all right, I'll join. As soon as I joined, she told me to go buy a new pair of shoes. So that's how I got into the Galee'ya program. But also, I made a mistake of coming back to school and thinking I can start where I left off. And then I jumped right back into calculus and advanced mathematics, and that was a big mistake. So it cost me in terms of grades. And because I'm much older, I have all kinds of credits from other classes. So it's very difficult to bring my grades back up, but overall. I mean, individual grades are good, but trying to bring something that crashed is very difficult. And it's a Galee'ya program that helped. New computer, cameras, nice little Walkman that messed up my hearing. And then we paid for tuition, books, and all that. Plus, it gave me somewhere to go other than the university, because the university is very impersonal in a lot of ways, especially if you geek like me and you can't really socialize a lot with unknown people. So it was easy for me to come down here and be buggy to everybody down here, and they know that. So anyway, there's other things along the way. If you go to the university and you ask a graduating student, somebody with a Bachelor of Science or an Associate, you ask them, where can you get help? And they'll start listing out places. You got SSS, RSS, you got the math lab in Chapman, the physics labs up in Reichardt, and all the way up to your physical, and then you got computer labs and English help and Gruning as well as one now. They know all that. But as a freshman, they don't know that. They come in with the idea that, they do it alone, but that's a big mistake. And most of them learn that, but they learn it the hard way. And one of the best things was programs such as Galee'ya, RSS, and SSS, and you got developmental learning and all that. Never went to those. But it's these programs that help the student. And as some of my fellow students said, that it's a way to help you adjust away from home. And there's another thing I've learned as a student, is that this is also for the very young students, is summer internships. If you're planning to go on to graduate school, as I've been accepted into the Geophysical Institute to study under Dr. Nicole Mulder and Dr. Gerhard Graham, husband and wife. Oh yeah, that brings up the subject. For some reason, I just can't get away from these Germans. Now, they were my first internship, my first summer internship as a student. And then my second, third, and fourth was in Colorado Sewers. And of course, the director of that was German. But they all see potential. And then they look for, they don't look at the grades, they don't look at your GPA, they look at you. And these are the kind of people, as a student, you want to seek out, you want to find. Because they're the ones that will look past what you can do, what you are doing, and look at what you can do. And so, and Galee'ya was, and Interior Campus is, those types of programs. And other thing is, back to the subject, dreams. And as I mentioned, I had a dream of being a physicist since back down the time. And I went, my first summer as an intern up at the Geophysical Institute, I went down to Colorado for a week. And that's where I was invited to join their internship. And being the first Alaska Native there, we went to a Native reservation in Wyoming. And this old lady there, and she's looking at me and she said, "You a student?" And I said, "Yeah." And "You're so old." I told her, "Well, I've been a soldier and firefighter and drunk and everything else. Used to be, not anymore." And she said, "Oh, you on a dream walk." And I thought about that and thought about it. And you can't take it literally by the words she said, dream walk. It's not. You have a goal and you're going for it, nothing gets in the way. That's where you're going, period, in a sentence. And you have a goal, you put your head down and charge. And then that's what she meant in a lot of ways. And then it also means that you're kind of like breaking the path, going against the grain. You're doing something that you're called upon to do. Not big booming voice, like a smoking bush, but it's something that you're meant to do with this life, I guess. And so that's one of the reasons I walked yesterday. Didn't have to. Got nobody coming, nobody alive anyway. And so I went for my people to see somebody with gray hair getting a Bachelor of Science, and one of the most difficult subjects that there is up there. And so now I'm going into the next, to me it's a mission impossible challenge, which is my master's in atmospheric physics. And the doctors I'm going to study under is theoretical physicists. It's all math and computers. There's no beakers, there's no test tubes, there's no measuring, nothing. It's all in the head. And that's what I always wanted to do. That's it, Joe.
It's been a long road getting here today, and like Stan, I'd like to share a story. with you about how I got here and about the special people that helped me and encouraged me along the way. If you were to look at the road that I've traveled to get here today, it might seem improbable that I'm standing here. When I was 5, I fell off the dock at our house, and if it hadn't been for the neighbor's boy, I probably would have drowned. My parents were divorced not long after that, and my mom remarried. We moved away to the village soon afterward, and would come home or come back to town most winters for the dog racing season. But there were years when we would stay in fish camp and take correspondence or attend the one-room school in the village. One time, my father was an alcoholic though, or my stepfather was an alcoholic. And I saw firsthand the ravages of alcoholism and domestic violence. One time while my mom was out working with the dogs, I can remember him tearing up the house looking for our last $5 so he could go buy a bottle of whiskey. When I was 13, we left. I struggled though with the big city of Fairbanks. When I was 16, I tried taking my own life because I had lost hope. So you can see that it is easy to imagine how I should have never gotten here today. I may have lost perspective for a while. There is good though with the bad. My mom, my dad, my grandparents, and many other family and friends showed me what it means to love and care about each other. God gave me a second chance, and when I came out the other side, out of the darkness, I made a vow to myself that I would make a difference somehow so that kids in similar situations could find hope when there seemed to be none. I floundered for a time. It wasn't easy all of a sudden, but I always thought that I would like to go to college after high school, but when it came time, I didn't have the means or resources. I worked 2 or 3 jobs for several months when my best friend's mom helped me get a student loan. I was taught to work hard and that nothing was free. Not wanting to go into debt, I joined the Navy's nuclear power program as a way to pay for my own school. I started to excel. I completed the qualifications to run a nuclear power plant, then got picked up for an officer training program where I received an NROTC scholarship at the University of Washington. It might seem as though I was on my way to getting that college education finally. I returned home to Alaska for the first time in 6 years, and Mom asked me if I would like to run a team of puppies for her. 2 months later, I had a sports leave of absence to come home and run the Iditarod with my grandpa's dogs. And 2 months later, due to military downsizing, I was given a choice to become an officer or go home and race. I chose to race, and my education got put on the back burner yet again. I found a passion, though, and a way that I could give back and make a difference. I did not share the bad things initially, but I would talk to kids in the schools about hard work and living their dreams. I'm not sure if I was ready to share or talk about the bad things yet. A few years later, though, a good friend, Don Dinwiddie, approached me and asked me if I would be willing to tell the entire story. I struggled with it. I talked to my wife, I talked to my mom and my sister, because they were there living it with me. Though it was painful, it was a way to truly give back and make a difference. Most can understand the internal struggle that I was facing, but what made a difference was when my sister encouraged me to, even when my mom wasn't sure that I should share. And what she said, what my sister said was, it's the truth though. And that helped make all the difference. Doors soon opened. The governor asked me to serve on the board of trustees for the Alaska Children's Trust. Then the Alaska Mental Health Trust asked me to be a spokesperson. I spoke at public events around the state and around the country and made several TV commercials. I got personal calls from people telling me how speaking out helped encourage them to seek help when they needed it. One of my cousins who worked within the health industry had a man come in who was suicidal to seek help. That man did not know he was my cousin, and when Matt was admitting him, the man said that if Ramey could talk about finding help publicly, he figured that he could too. I had always told myself that if I only made a difference for one person, it would all be worth it. You might wonder why I chose to tell this today. A few years ago, my life turned upside down again, and I did not know what I was going to do. I struggled with where I was going as I was working as a heavy equipment operator at Valley Coal Mine. I would come home feeling beat up and tired, and I talked it over with Kathy, and we made the hard decision for me to come back to school. I didn't want to be reaching retirement age and not be able to do the traditional things like hunting and fishing and picking blueberries with my kids. I wanted to keep on doing those things, and we made the hard decision 6 years ago for me to come back. And over that time, there have been a lot of generous people that have made it possible for me to get here. Galee'ya for allowing me to work when classes were out on the weekend. The Galee'ya program for providing me with the economic and support that classroom support that I needed initially to even make that decision to come back, and all the rest of the scholarships like ANSEP and DOYAN that I received to make it financially possible, and my family and friends, and especially my wife and children who without I could have never gotten through the struggles we faced for me to come back to school. Having experienced firsthand what it means to give so that you can make a difference, I want to recognize the exceptional educators that I had the opportunity to learn from over the last few years. Dr. Darrow teaching GE 261 with such enthusiasm that after working the night shift and driving into town to get to class in time helped ignite a new passion in me to learn about geology and engineering. Or Mary Keskinen, who would make the time that when I was having a hard time understanding petrographic microscopes. The engagement and passion that Anupma shared with her students in remote sensing. Reiner, when I would send an email at 3 in the morning about geochemistry, and he would respond 3 minutes later and converse with me until I understood. I don't think he ever sleeps. Or Dr. Metz, who has given me challenges to solve and has been there time and time again when I needed support. Or I think especially educators like Bernice, whether it was at a family gathering or a chance meeting as I walked across campus, and there was always a word of encouragement to tell me to keep it up. It was going to be worth it when I got done, and I can tell you it was worth every minute of it. And to every other dedicated professor and educator that's out there, because it's because of people like that that have dedicated their lives to making a difference in somebody else's lives that makes it worthwhile. And I want to thank everyone here that had a part in me being successful, and thank you.
This morning I did my presentation on my what was supposed to be a poster, but it turned out to be a PowerPoint. But in conclusion of that presentation, I dedicated to my late mother, Darlene Northway. And since this was also in honor or in memory of Bernice, I wanted to share a song that my mom composed for my dad. My dad passed on in 2002 and mom passed on in 2012. So during that time, that short period when she was alone, she composed a song in honor of my dad. There was a fire at a place that they went hunting every September, and that place is called Island Lake. It's a beautiful place. I love that place. I feel my parents when I go there. I get close to them. And in that song, she said, she's talking to that fire and saying, why are you burning up my sweetheart's footprints in that song? So I would like to share this song with you in memory of Bernice. And don't take it as a sad song or anything like that. It's just, it fills me, it makes me feel good, it brings me closer to my parents and my mom, who, we all miss our mom. It's part of life, we gotta move on. So, if you just bear with me, I'll try.
Just to show